Welcome to the Numerology and Astrology for May 30th, 2020. If you add all those numbers together, you get the number 12, and if you add the 1 and the 2 together, you get the number 3. The number 3 is the number of positive mind. It's the Trinity. It's the Father, Son, Holy Ghost. It's the Virgin, the Mother, and the Crone. It is the Father, the Mother, and the Child. So trinities are very important in numerology, and normally they are extremely positive. But with all things, there are shifts and changes that happen when there's 3. So you think of like the third wheel. So the third wheel person can feel out of place or out of sync. And it can trigger deeper, darker emotions. And those deeper, darker emotions are our dark side, our devilish side. And so that's why this number is also called Devil and Divine, because it swings really high. It goes way up and it goes way down. And either side of your nature can get triggered. So I have this funny thing that I go, if I have a really, really great day, I kind of go, because I know within hours something shitty is going to happen, because it's just the nature of things that things go up and then they go boom like this. And I don't take it personally, because I just know that that's how this works. So like the universe goes, you're beautiful. Now somebody tells you you're not. But you are beautiful, but somebody doesn't believe you, right? So you have this kind of thing that's a swing. It's like a roller coaster, really. So there is so much in the world that is positive, and there is an equal amount of negative in the world. We live in a world of duality where both exist in the same time and place, and within each of us is that potential for great evil. Denial of that dark side allows it to come out in unconscious ways that can be more damaging to others than if you just came out at the beginning and expressed what you were feeling and tell the truth and say yes or no and be clear over and over and over again, rather than, just have feeling like you're being dragged along, somebody else's path rather than your own. So, stuffing emotions allows those emotions to build up to a breaking point, and it creates a type of aggressive volatility, which is never good, and it will make you lash out in inappropriate moments. So, at the drop of a hat, emotions can shift out of kindness to horror, and that is what we are witnessing in the world now. The moon is in Virgo, and it's perfect for more clutter clearing, cleanup, and eating healthy. The moon opposes Mars in Pisces. Mars is not its happiest in the emotionally complicated sign of Pisces. It sort of feels like a wet noodle to Mars that wants to go forward. And this can cause a lot of aggravation, frustration, belligerence, and reactive actions. So it's kind of like, you ask your teenager, I really need some help with this. Will you help me? And they're like, no. Like this. And so all of a sudden you're like you want to just like lash out. And so just breathe and recognize that some people are being wet noodles. Okay. So none of that which is happening in this moment is your fault completely. I mean, you're a co-contributor, but it's not completely your fault. And, so I look at this and I kind of go, you have to change your ways and how you respond and react to things. You can disagree, but if you demand action without violence, is that going to work? Do you even try that? So what happens, I think, is that people don't speak up and don't speak up, or even if they do, they don't feel heard, or even if they do, they're not effective in that communication. And then they get more and more frustrated and more aggravated until they just snap. And then all of a sudden that's where violence happens. I think it is really about forcing our governments to behave. Because they are not behaving. They're acting like petulant children, because that's exactly what they are. So, you have to be the grown-up here. Somebody's going to have to be the grown-up in this dance and look at things objectively. Now, if you speak up in a nonviolent way and somebody says no, what do you do then? To me, you keep pressure. You keep pressure on. There's a point that pressure becomes uncomfortable. But as we've noticed with our politicians, when people were speaking up in the town halls, they just stopped doing the town halls. They were just like, I don't want to hear it. I don't want to have any of this conflict. So I'm just going to ignore it. I'm like, well, notice it doesn't go away. When you do that, it doesn't really go away. So Now, one caution for today, don't overspend money. If you want to do anything to feel better, don't spend money, like don't go on a shopping binge or something. That particular action today will end up, you'll regretting shortly. The moon squares Venus in Gemini, and it supports listening to your instincts. You might have problems with feeling satisfied in your life. Remember that everyone else is also feeling similarly and you're not alone. So do not make up a story about why this is happening. What is happening in the world right now, again, is not personal. Don't take it that way. The moon opposes Neptune. You might feel dreamy or overly passive. This aspect creates emotional imbalances. Know that if you press others right now, they may say yes, but that's not a real yes. It's probably not a true statement. They probably are just afraid to make conflict. So those that have high anxiety right now are going to feel really nervous and anxious, and they don't want to create another upset. So don't push them into that, okay? Now, the moon trines Pluto, so know that your perceptions may be one-sided. You are awakening feelings that are uncomfortable. It is very difficult to step outside your bubble of perception. The real world is much harsher and filled with more suffering than anyone really wants to admit. But here, right now, you are seeing a new world and a real world, and maybe one you don't like and never wanted to live in. So keep your kindness and a soft heart in all of this hate-filled rhetoric. I know it's difficult, but without those that hold the good higher as more valuable than the bad and the evil in the world, then we're really in trouble. So the sun sesquisquares Pluto, and the fears right now are very real. Those that are being subjugated and pushed down right now, their fear is very, very real. There are those that want paralytic fear in those minorities so they can remain in control. Such people do not deserve the power they are presently holding. Those same people want to push down entire groups of people and make them afraid to live. Today, be kind to all people. Do not overlook those that are walking in fear right now. Try your best to help them in appropriate ways. Mars forms a semi-square with Jupiter. Know that your timing is off, and while you might feel as if you can get everything you want done, the truth is that it might be too much for one day. Okay, so my quote for today. Your life is a bird song. What song do you sing every morning as the sun rises? What song will be sung when your sun sets? Do you celebrate the blessings and joys that come with each magical day that you get to experience? Perhaps it is time to do just that. So, in relationship to this, I have a stray cat that is a wild cat, and I have been feeding this cat for 4 years, and this cat has never purred, has never let me pet her. She is extremely feral, and yet I feed her, and so I stay really consistent. And so the song that I sing every morning is that I wake up and brush my teeth and wash my face and put clothes on and feed my cat inside and then take the food out to the outdoor cat. And the song I sing outside is I go outside and all the birds are singing just like, good morning, good morning. And so I try to be one of those birds. And I go, good morning, Samantha. How are you? There you are. And I'm really sweet to her, and I use a very sweet voice. I'm like, I have your breakfast, and I hope you have a really good day. And so I have this same conversation with her in a variety of forms over and over again. And I look her directly in the eyes, and I blink my eyes very slowly, because a slow blink tells a cat that you're calm, and it will tend to calm them down. And but it's so interesting that, this cat, I can feel her. I mean, like, she will wake me up because she's outside under the van waiting for her breakfast. And she'll be like, excuse me, but I'm here. And I wake up and I'm like, oh my God, because she's related, all animals are related to light, right? So it gets light at 5:30 in the morning now. And so she's up at 5:30. I'm like, oh my God, it's like barely light. But that's the time that the little critters are out, and that's breakfast time for a wild cat. The little mice and the little voles are out. So What song do you sing in the morning? Do you sing in the shower? Do you put music on? I would recommend you start to notice your routine. I know that just needing to be with the cat outside makes me happier, because I recognize that my voice and my tone is a positive impact on her day. And even though she's not my cat, she's my cat, and she looks forward to my little engagement with her every day, and I respect her boundaries. And I think that's what friendships are, is when you respect someone's boundaries. So, okay, now my blog for today. The world is dying for your kind. Those that can save this world are dying every day. So many things in this life have never been this close to death, extinction, non-existence. Death is your closest companion right now. Have you noticed that? In this moment, an angel is standing by your left shoulder, hoping that you relish this fleeting moment. That angel hopes that you finally recognize that from this point forward, each moment is a gift. What if you lived your life as if there was no tomorrow? What would you do? How would you act? If you are not behaving that way now, then perhaps it's time to change. I had a conversation many years ago with my best friend, and so in life, we always have these goals, like, oh, I'm supposed to, be a celebrated artist, or I'm supposed to be a published author, a successful published author, or whatever. And, in life, you don't always get exactly your goal that you go for. I mean, you sometimes get as high, you're going for the stars, but you get as high as the clouds, and that's still better than everywhere else. And so you should be grateful for that. But funnily enough, we're not terribly grateful sometimes. And so I was having this conversation, and and this was years ago, and I said, I realized that if I had like $50 million, right now, would I do anything different? And the answer was no. That was really interesting to me. Like, would I still do my work? Yeah. Would I still do my videos? Yeah. Would I still teach my classes? Yeah. If I had $50 million, I probably would donate to, saving the orangutans and, saving the elephants. And, I'd probably send money to save the world, for sure, if I had more money, but I don't have the money to do that. But when it comes down to your daily routine, do you like your daily routine? Do you like who you are on a moment by moment basis? And so, I live in a very rural area. Getting anything done around here is like a massive event, because first of all, I live, far away from the city. And so getting things is difficult. And then once you're here, there's just, it's like critter control. If I'm doing a garden, I have to, put up a way to keep them out, and then I have to put bird net over that, and and then I've got to have sprinkler systems and drip systems, because you don't want to waste water around here, and and then all the beds want to go wild, and everything wild tries to come in and take over. And my joke is that there's no way to keep the outside around here. I remember my mother's house in Texas when I was a child, and she had this perfect house and white carpet and all this, and somehow she always managed to keep that clean, which is just shocking to me, because now I live in a very remote rural area, and it's like, we have a rule that it's like you take your shoes off outside the door, and and if you're super dirty, you drop your clothes on the porch, and then you bring them in and drop them in the washing machine, because it's so hard to keep the house clean, because there's just dirt that dust and leaves and little fern things that show up everywhere. But when I look at this, it's like I remember something that I said, forever, forever. I used to say, they say, well, if you could have the perfect home, what would it be? And I'm sure you've seen those memes of like these beautiful little houses tucked in the woods, and they look like a fairy house. And, and they said, would this be your idea of bliss? Would you live here? And I'm like, absolutely yes. Absolutely yes. And so what I used to say all the time was, I would rather have a small house and 40 acres than a large house in a compound with a gate with everything right on top of it, with another house right on top of it where you don't have privacy. And so, I laugh. I'm sitting on 32 acres in the redwood forest, and yeah, I have a big locked gate and, but, it's very remote, and I don't have a giant house. And, we're constantly working on it because you live in a redwood forest and it's constantly raining. And so, things rot around here and you have to keep the termites out. And there's all these things that happen. And somehow you have to do all of that and not use pesticides and not hurt the rest of the animals and not, hurt the owls that would eat a rodent that's been poisoned or something. So it's more difficult because you have to really think it out. You have to kind of go, how do I do this and not harm anything or create a cascade of harm? So, everything is organic, everything has to be broken down, you can't use chlorine because we have a septic system and, there's all these things that you have to think through. And I think that sometimes when you live in the city, you're lazy because you have this infrastructure that allows you to have these things that are easy. But then because of that, you don't have to be conscious because, that's not your fault. That's the water department's problem that I put bleach in the water. It's not your problem. And I go, here, everything is my problem. Everything is my responsibility one way or the other. And if it screws up, it's completely my fault. And because nature by itself would not do the crazy stuff that humans do. Okay. So take a look today and really see, are you living the life? If you had $5 million, what would you do different? Would you do something different? And what I discovered was I would do this exact same thing, which means this is what I want. This is my life. This is what I want. And it's not everybody's life, for sure. And they wouldn't want to be this remote. And it's too quiet and it's too lonely. And so, I understand that people that have never been alone, loneliness is a very, very scary real thing because when you get quiet and still, what comes up is your unresolved emotional issues. But fortunately for me, I've spent a lot of time alone. I've done, month-long Vipassana meditation courses, and trust me, a lot of shit comes up then. And you finally get to a point where you accept who you are. You accept the gift that you are, the mistakes that you've made. You finally figure out how to just be with yourself. And I think that's the gift of COVID. If we could have a gift that, you have to process the stuff that you haven't been processing. You actually have to look at the things that you have not wanted to look at. And I think that is an incredibly good thing, not a bad thing. So, okay. You guys have a good day. Bye.